recording. Y feliz lunes, feliz lunes. This will not be our last. Normally for other classes, this would be our last week, but because we ditched 4th of July coming on a Monday, we have today and next week will be our last class of the summer session. Para que sepan, so you kind of know. It's a little bit altered the general schedule for us because of us skipping the July 4th holiday falling on a Monday as it did. So we've got this week and next week. And okay. Today what I want to do is split up our time a little bit between a little more on that alguno and ninguno thing, a little bit on that, the shortened adjective, and just kind of testing that you know the different forms that alguno and ninguno take, or alguno ninguno if you take the long form, and a little bit about how algún is used, a little bit of the why, because you may ask, rightly so, if we already have un and unos, which means and some, what do we need algún and algunos for? What do we even need that? Isn't that like the same thing? Some, unos, some, algunos, some, isn't that the same thing? Well, it can be interchangeable, but sometimes it is not. So we're going to have a little video on that. So we're going to do that first, and then we're going to seg into using tratarse de, se trata de. More specifically, se trata de, se trata de. So your little assignment was to find a book, un libro, un video, you know, an article in the new magazine or something, something that you can say this is about. So we're going to use se trata de, se trata de. And se trata de is indeed a reflexive thing, but it has a special meaning. Se trata de means something is about. And from there, we're going to expand out a little bit because, you know, we've done pretty much the whole summer on reflexives and all the different things that happen with the word se. But sometimes you kind of need to know or keep in mind that certain verbs will be used both with that se reflexive kind of pronoun and without it, and that the meaning does change. And we're going to expand from se trata de into taking a look at what tratar means without the se, what it means with the se. Some verbs are going to constantly come up over and over that are like that. So if you've got your little ejemplo, el ejemplo, your little movie example or something handy that you had, you know, printed out, you may want to check for that in the next couple of minutes. Okay, we're going to start off, however, with this alguno word. And
Marilyn,
sí.
I wonder if you could possibly maybe carve out a few minutes, whenever, on the video with the accidental, you know, accidental events. I just have to admit, and I should have written them down, but I was going crazy trying to figure out all the different tenses for olvidar that she was using in there.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yes. Okay. Actually, let's take a quick look at that now.
And it was mainly at I'll say the last few minutes of that video when she was going over lots of examples, which I kept wondering, okay, these must be tenses I don't know anything about just
And
yet.
olvidar. Okay. Olvidar. Yes. And part of the problem with that is that there are yeah, a lot of this accidental se is used with things that are outside of that present tense context. A lot of times it is definitely used with past tenses in particular. You know, I mean, it can be used technically in any tense.
Yeah, well, I thought the ones that were in past preterite, that I thought I knew, and it was everything was, I mean, if I learned one thing about this, it was everything's supposed to be conjugated as third person. So I kept wondering, well, wait a minute. I kept saying that, wait a minute, what third person is that one?
Yeah. Okay.
Or you
Let's
can,
carve
or
out
you
a few
could
minutes
save
with that.
or if you want, you could save this for next week. I mean, whatever.
Let's carve out a few minutes with that. And just so that you kind of see what these are, and hopefully you can see what some of them mean. I may not be able to hit all of them today, but we'll take a look at a few of those. Es buena pregunta. That's a good question. So you have this video I had sent about olvidar and olvidarse and olvidarse the accidental. And oh my goodness, look at all those. And yes, sadly, one of the difficult things is that quite often is using things that step out of bounds from what you're used to with present tense. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple of those. Aquí, here we go. Muy común. No te olvides de pasar. Wait a minute. Olvidar is an AR verb. What's that no te olvides about? No te olvides de pasar por el buzón de correo. Don't forget to stop by the mailbox. Go to the mailbox. Yeah. No te olvides is a negative command. Oy.
This one was just plain present tense, right? So wasn't olvidas for te olvidas.
Okay. Ooh, there's a pass. Let me.
Yeah, it was much later in the video when she was doing the olvidarsele.
Okay.
And that's where the tenses didn't all seem to be third person, at least of tenses that I recognize.
Okay. So here's a past. And even if you're not studying the past, even if you're not participating in the Wednesday group, just know that when you see this, it looks like it ends in O, it must be a yo verb. If it's an O with an accent mark on the end, that's a past tense, and it's not yo at all. Juan se olvidó, Juan forgot. So se olvidó de pagar la renta. That is a past tense use of olvidarse, to forget about something. Juan se olvidó, Juan forgot. So what I would caution is a lot of these verbs that are used with accidental se will wind up being very commonly in past, but they can be in other tenses too, of course. We showed you the one that was, this one, okay. No quiero que mi sobrino se olvide de mí. Se olvide looks again like, wait a minute, isn't olvidar an AR verb? What is that E doing at the end? Isn't that for E or IR verbs? This is what is called a subjunctive. So yeah, and subjunctive refers to many things. It refers to doubt. It refers to an action that is not really part of the real world, what is really happening at this time. So certain words in the front end of a sentence will trigger that you need something called the subjunctive in the connecting clause. A clause is a little mini sentence hooked up to the main sentence, and it is dependent on that first part of the sentence. So the no quiero que, I don't want, when I don't want somebody else to do something, that second verb, that thing that you don't want them to do, has to go into what they call subjunctive. So I don't want my nephew to forget about me. And se olvide is what they call a present subjunctive. Okay. We don't know if he's going to forget. She just says, I don't want him to forget. I don't want that he should do this. English has nothing really very good and present to connect to that subjunctive, but what our point is just for you to recognize how these are used, not to necessarily have to be able to produce all those different tenses, because that would not be a realistic goal at this point, but to just recognize, oh, they're using this in a different mode. So that last one was saying, I don't want that somebody does that. And we don't know if that second action is going to happen or not. Here is a negative command. No te olvides de pasar. Don't forget to go by the mailbox. No te olvides. Negative two commands use an opposite ending. We can maybe talk a little bit about that in the fall. Commands and what they mean and how to form them. Okay. Normal. Here's a normal one. Juan siempre se olvida de agendar la reunión semanal. Juan always forgets, and this is just a nice regular present tense. Se olvida de. No hay ningún problema. No problem here. That's a regular present tense. Here's a command, but instead of being a negative command, it's a go do it command. Olvídate. Olvídate de eso. Forget about it. Forget about that, literally, but olvídate. Olvídate with the te tagged on to the end means it's a command that you're telling somebody do that. Oh, forget it. In other words, you're telling somebody, don't worry about that, or don't even think about that. Olvídate de eso. Olvídate. It's an affirmative command. But the olvida sounds kind of normal because it's an AR ending. Okay. Let's get into olvidarsele. I'm going to let her run a little bit here.
Olvidársele, olvidársele.
Okay, here comes the accidental.
En mi opinión, es la más común.
In my opinion, it is the most common. Yes. Why is olvidarsele, meaning you're going to combine it always leading off with se. And then the next little pronoun will tell who it's happening to. Se, all these will start with either se me, or se te, or se le, or se les, or se nos. And that second little pronoun tells who's forgetting the thing, really. And the reason she says this is, in her opinion, the most common, and I think it is the most common also, is that often we use this as somebody in English saying, it slipped my mind. Oh, I absolutely forgot about that. And it indicates that you had no intention of forgetting it. You good-heartedly meant to do something and you just forgot. And it slipped your mind, okay? So that is how this is going to be used.
Y la más usada cuando hablamos casualmente.
Because,
Cuando hablamos de
when
una
we talk in
manera
a casual
informal,
conversation,
¿okay?
this is super common.
Olvidársele utiliza lo que llamamos el se
It is the
accidental.
accidental se
Cuando no
when we don't take responsibility of what has happened. It is the no fault. It is the not my fault. Not, somebody says, my bad. That I made a mistake. No, somebody is saying they made a mistake, but they had no intention to mess this up. So this is the purpose of olvidarsele. And that little le at the end just means that le is very generic. Le may become me, it may become te, it may become les, it may become nos. And that tells really who forgot. Okay.
tomamos la responsabilidad de lo sucedido, ¿ok? Ese es el se accidental. Hay muchos verbos que utilizan esta forma
not all
y lo
verbs
podemos
will
ver
use
en
these,
otros
but
videos.
some do.
Por ahora, déjame mostrarte la estructura que utiliza este tipo de verbos, olvidársele. La fórmula es un poquito diferente
Yeah, and the
a las
formula
otras
is a little
lecciones,
different. It
pero es muy
is,
fácil también.
but it's
Fíjate
easy.
cómo es. Se más pronombre de
Always
objeto
say,
indirecto
and we've
más
got an
el
indirect
verbo
pronoun.
conjugado en la tercera persona.
Now, the reason this is easy to use is that we always start with se, no matter who we're talking about. So you don't have to think hard about a word changing. All of these start with se. And then the next word will be the little indirect object pronoun. That means it will either be me, if I'm the one who forgot, te, if you're the one who forgot, le, to talk about one person, he or she forgot, or the usted form, nos, to say that we forgot, les, to say they forgot, or the les can be used for ustedes, you plural too. And then the verb is always going to be a third person. And that means, in a way, you know what? It's kind of like using gustar. It's going to be a third person. But the difficulty will be, you know, we don't often say, oh, I'm forgetting about this right now. We usually say, I forgot in the past. So you're going to hear that third person verb as a past verb form. So even if you don't know what a past verb form looks like, it'll be, in this case, either olvidó, and most of the time it'll be olvidó, or it might be olvidaron, but that verb depends on the thing that was forgotten. If the thing that was forgotten was an activity, you know, you forgot to do something, or if it was a singular thing, it'll be olvidó. That thing went and forgot itself on me is literally what it means. And what it means is, I didn't mean for this to happen. Okay, so let's take a look.
Singular o plural. Más la cosa olvidada.
And
The thing
yeah,
forgotten. También puede ser singular o plural. Siempre vamos a utilizar el verbo conjugado para la tercera persona.
yeah,
Puede ser singular
so it's never
o
a
plural,
yo, it's
¿ok?
never a tú,
Por ejemplo,
it's never a
se
nosotros.
me olvidó.
And you know what? If you want to memorize this, this is a good phrase to memorize. I forgot is 3 words. Se me olvidó. Se me olvidó. Olvidó means it forgot. That thing went and forgot itself on me is literally what it means, which of course in English doesn't make any sense. No tiene sentido. It has no meaning. No tiene sentido. It makes no sense. But that's what you use. So it usually, we don't say this in English in the present either, because, you know, if you're saying, I'm not forgetting about something now, I forgot in the past. Se me olvidó. Boom, I forgot. And that means, oh, didn't mean to. Okay, it's what's built into that whole structure is, I didn't mean for it to happen.
Se te olvidó.
You forgot. Se
le olvidó.
he forgot.
Se
She forgot.
nos olvidó.
We forgot.
Se les olvidó.
They forgot.
¿Sí? Siempre el verbo en tercera persona.
But the verb is always olvidó, 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 olvidó. Because something, in this case, it's a one thing because it's olvidó. Something went and forgot itself on me. Gee, didn't mean to. Sorry about that. Okay. And the verb is always the same there. Okay. But here, this little word in the middle, this second word, that's the key, la clave. This little second word after the word se is, you know, it tells you who forgot. Something went and forgot itself on somebody.
Persona. En este caso lo estoy utilizando en su forma singular. ¿Ok? Vamos a ver algunos ejemplos. Se me olvidó echarle sal al arroz.
Se me olvidó echarle. Echar means to throw in, toss in. Okay. And often we talk about food preparation, they like to use echar because you toss in a handful of some kind of spice or seasoning. Yeah. Se me olvidó echarle sal. I forgot to throw in some rice. Or excuse me, throw in some salt, toss some salt on the rice. Okay. Echar is what you forgot to do. Add in. Add in. Don't worry too much about the echarle. Se me olvidó echarle sal. I forgot to put salt in. I forgot to add salt in to the rice. Okay. Se me olvidó. But tossing in is an action. And that means that olvidó is always going to be singular. Olvidó. Se me olvidó. Okay. Bien. Let's let it roll.
Se me olvidó echarle sal al arroz. A Alfonso se le olvidó la clave de su correo.
And here is not forgetting to do something. Here is forgetting an actual thing. Clave is a key. There are different words that are used for password. One is contraseña. Sometimes clave, key, is used for password. You may hear clave used a lot in Latin America also to talk about password for Wi-Fi. La clave. A clave is a key, and a key gets you in. Therefore, it's a password. So if Alfonso forgot a password is one thing, la clave. Alfonso, and we're just saying Alfonso so that you know that the le is talking about a specific guy with that name. Alfonso se le olvidó. Se le olvidó la clave de su correo. Se le olvidó. Okay? He forgot his password.
A Alfonso se le olvidó la clave de su correo. Ayer se nos olvidó recoger los resultados médicos.
Se nos olvidó recoger. Recoger is pick up. Okay, you collect something and pick it up. Se nos olvidó recoger. We forgot to pick up something. And picking up something is an action, and action translate into singular for that verb, olvidó. We forgot to pick up. Okay.
I have a question.
Sí.
I mean, before this one, before this sentence, why you have to use before Alfonso? Can you just say Alfonso?
Okay. Buena pregunta. That is a very good question. This sentence by itself is out of context. If you just throw out that sentence with no prior part of the conversation, se le, that le could, it pertains to any one person. So without the context of a prior part of the conversation, you don't know who le is referring to. So when we take a sentence out of context, quite often we define who we mean by le. And the way we do that is to put an a and the person's name. And then you know that le is talking about the person whose name is Alfonso. Because le could mean Anita, le could mean Manuel, le could mean el profesor, le could mean el jefe, le could mean 1,000 different people. And so when we take the sentence out of context, we add on their name. It is redundant, but it is necessary if you don't have the first part of the conversation to tell you who you're talking about.
But it's just like, I'm still confused. I mean, like, I'm not sure about that because, like, you already mentioned it, like Alfonso. So se le olvidó, that means that they're referring to himself, isn't it?
That means Alfonso was the guy who forgot the
right.
password.
So because he's the one who forgot the
Alfonso, the Alfonso is only there to define specifically, so there's no mistake, who we mean by that pronoun le. That's the only purpose it serves.
Even though there is nobody else in the context.
Right. Okay. So let me show you when I do not need to say Alfonso. I'll show you an example of when I would get rid of that Alfonso phrase. So you
Okay.
understand why it's being used. Here's a normal conversation. Mi compañero en la oficina, la persona que se sienta en el escritorio a mi lado, se llama Alfonso. Alfonso es buen hombre, pero no es muy listo. He's not so sharp. Alfonso no es muy listo. Es buen hombre, pero no es muy listo. Y tiene dificultades con la memoria. El pobre Alfonso se le olvidó la clave de su correo. Because I was talking about Alfonso, the guy who sits next to me, nice guy, but not the brightest bulb, not such a great memory. I don't need to say Alfonso se le olvidó because I've already been talking about Alfonso. And so if I say se le olvidó la clave, if I just said, Alfonso tiene muy mala memoria, se le olvidó la clave de su correo. Oh, you automatically know we've been talking about Alfonso. Se le olvidó means he forgot. I don't need to define it. This sentence has the Alfonso up front because it is a sentence with no prior part of the conversation. So if I just say se le olvidó, it could mean she forgot, he forgot, the formal you, usted, forgot. And without that prior conversation context, we don't have that information.
Okay.
So sentences that are just thrown out to you as an example with no buildup to say, here's why we're talking about this, they're going to include the Alfonso.
Okay.
They're going to define who they mean by le, because le is very fuzzy. It can mean a guy, a girl, a kid, the person who lives with you, your dog, formal, usted, you, it can mean a whole bunch of different people, right? And we're just defining.
Okay.
That's all we're doing. It is exactly like how we use the a phrase with gustar.
Okay.
If I wanted to say Alfonso likes ice cream, Alfonso le gusta el helado. Same use of a Alfonso, same use.
Okay.
We're defining who we mean. Whenever you see that written out, and there it's hard to hear because the a blends into Alfonso. You know, it would be better if we had a name like a Ramon. Then you hear the actually. A Ramon. A Ramon se le olvidó la clave. A Ramon. A Ramon. Whenever you hear an a Ramon, it is going to define a little pronoun. And that little pronoun is likely to be le. Okay. If it's plural, it's going to be defining les with an S at the end. Bien?
Sí.
These are all good questions. These are all good. Son buenas preguntas. Okay.
A sentence that doesn't have that kind of verb structure, you could just start it with the name. You could just say, like, Ramon come.
Right. Okay.
You don't have
Yes.
to say the Ramon
A
come.
regular verb. So what I'd like to call a vanilla kind of verb, like comer, eat, like vivir, lives. See, Ramon vive en Gilbert. Ramon vive en Gilbert. He lives in Gilbert. Okay. That's fine. But a Ramon le gusta vivir en Gilbert. A Ramon le gusta.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's hard to remember that.
It's hard to remember that.
Just the name.
There are verbs, and this is this kind of structure is similar to the structure we use for gustar.
Sure.
So, yeah, and that is because these little pronouns, me and te and nos and le and les are the exact same pronouns we use with gustar. They're what we call indirect object pronouns. Many, many, many verbs will use these little pronouns, but not these kind of vanilla flavor verbs like comer, vivir, estudiar, leer, cocinar, montar en bicicleta, ride a bike. Those don't need those little pronouns. Depende, it depends. Is that the kind of verb that needs that pronoun or not? Maybe that's something we'll talk about come fall. You know, these things will all be mixed and rolled together because, yes, that's just what happens in language. Okay, let's check out our other examples. I am glad that you guys have these questions. These are very good questions because I asked you to listen to this on your own. We forgot to pick up the action of being picked up. It went in and forgot itself on us, but we don't conjugate the verb for nosotros. Because see, we are absolving ourselves of the guilt. So we don't conjugate the verb for we, because you know what? We didn't do that. We didn't mean to do that. That activity went and forgot itself on us. These are not conjugated for yo or tú or nosotros, because I don't take responsibility for it. So the verb is not conjugated because you know what? I didn't do that. It forgot itself on me. And certain verbs do this, only certain verbs, but olvidar is one of the ones that you hear a lot, because how often do you say, oh, shoot, I just forgot about that? That's what this structure is.
Resultados médicos. Ayer se nos olvidó recoger los resultados médicos. Se me olvidaron algunos detalles.
Here is a plural. Instead of olvidó, here's a plural use. Se me olvidaron algunos detalles. I forgot some details. I forgot a few details. Okay. And because details, detalles, is more than one, now I can't use olvidó. I have to make a third person plural. I have to make olvidar in the past agree with detalles. Those details, they went and they forgot themselves on me. So we conjugate olvidar for detalles and in the past. So those of you who hadn't had the past yet, don't worry too much about that, but it's always either se me olvidó, I forgot, if it's this many things. It's se me olvidaron if it's something plural, a group of things. Okay. Se me olvidaron algunos detalles. I forgot some details.
Se me olvidaron algunos detalles. Se me olvidó tu nombre. ¿Me lo puedes repetir?
Oh, I forgot your name. And name is only one thing, so it's olvidó. And notice we punch the O at the end. Olvidó, not olvido. Olvidó, olvidó. Se me olvidó tu nombre. Oh, I went and forgot your name. Oh, your name went and forgot itself on me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to forget your name. Se me olvidó tu nombre. Me lo puedes repetir. Can you repeat it for me? Okay. Because notice, this is just not an idea that we say in present tense. I'm forgetting my keys. Well, then pick them up. If you, you're forgetting them, go pick them up now. Well, yeah, it's just not an idea we express in the present.
Se me olvidó tu nombre. ¿Me lo puedes repetir? Vamos a ver también algunos ejemplos con otros tiempos verbales. Por ejemplo, puedo decir, siempre se me olvida tomarme las vitaminas.
I always forget to take vitamins. Oh, here is one of the kind of, yeah, okay. So here's one we can use in present, because you're saying, I always do this. Ah, shoot, I always do this. The word we would preface this with is, oh, shoot, if you're being polite. Ah, shoot. I always forget to do this. Siempre se me olvida. I always forget to take my vitamins. I always forget to take my pills. Okay, se me olvida. This is one of the few instances when we will have it in present, presente. And taking the vitamins, it's an action. Therefore, we use olvida. Like we say, me gusta tomar. I like to take something. It's se me olvida tomar. Okay.
Se me olvida tomarme las vitaminas. ¿Por qué siempre se te olvida sacar la basura?
Why do you always forget to take out the trash? Okay. And again, we're talking about a habit now. This is why these can be in present tense. We're talking about habits, which means what one generally does all the time. So that's why it can be in present, presente. Why do you always forget to take out the trash?
¿Por qué siempre se te olvida sacar la basura? A mí nunca se me ha olvidado tu cumpleaños.
Okay, don't worry about this one too much. This is what they call a present perfect. Okay. A mí nunca se me ha olvidado. I have never forgotten your birthday. And the have forgotten. That's what the ha olvidado is. Have forgotten. You will not be using that for a while. You may, but okay, the H-A, the word translates to this have part in English, where we use what we call a helping verb or an auxiliary verb to build this thing called the present perfect. That's the word olvidado. And the olvidado is forgotten, not forgot, forgotten. Okay.
That's definitely one of them. I had no idea where it was coming from.
It's a present perfect. Okay, so let me give you a vanilla kind of verb because this is a little complicated one to string together. Let's take comer. I have eaten is I have. Comido, eaten. Han comido, they have eaten. Hemos comido, we have eaten. And you have to have a have verb with what they call a past participle. And that winds up being often an ed verb, but we have so many irregulars in English, it might be something else like eaten. Yeah, because we don't say eated, have eaten. He comido. Hemos comido, we have eaten. Mi amigo ha comido, my friend has eaten. We're just using two verbs to make a verb phrase, and that verb phrase is called present perfect. Present perfect, oddly enough, really talks about something that's already over with. Even though we call it present perfect, it's talking about something that's over with. That's because the have part is in present tense. Okay.
A mí nunca se me ha olvidado tu cumpleaños. Espero que no se te olvide darle like a este video.
This is again another thing of the very odd thing we call a subjunctive in Spanish. It means it uses an opposite verb ending. When I want, or I hope, or I wish for somebody else to do something, I can't control that other person does it or says, forget it, I don't feel like it, right? I want, or I wish, or I hope for somebody else to do something. That other action that the other person is doing is not part of reality. It is not happening yet. I want him to take out the garbage. That doesn't mean he's going to take out the garbage. Maybe he will, and maybe he won't. So that's in kind of the twilight zone. And verbs that are in the twilight zone, because it depends on somebody else doing something that I want, flop into this mood. It is called a mood of subjunctive. And they use an opposite vowel structure. So, espero que no se te olvide. I hope you don't forget. I can't control what you do. Okay. I hope that you won't forget. que no se olvide dar. So don't worry too much about forming subjunctive, but that's what that is.
Espero que no se te olvide darle like a este video. Alfonso se le ha
And here's another present.
olvidado
Oh, isn't this complicated? Here's another present. Here's another present. Perfect. Have done. I have eaten. I have driven. I have written. I have cooked. Oh, I have cooked that a dozen times. Alfonso se le ha olvidado la clave. So Alfonso has forgotten, not he forgot, he has forgotten. Don't worry about that too much, but do know that sometimes we get a couple of verbs that have to work together, an auxiliary verb and a participle verb. That's all it is.
la clave de su correo varias veces últimamente. A Alfonso se le ha olvidado la clave de su correo varias veces últimamente. Espero que no se les olvide dejar sus ejemplos en los comentarios.
And this is a subjunctive again. Espero que no se les olvide dejar. I hope you don't forget to leave examples. I hope, but I don't know what you're going to do. So what you're going to do falls into twilight zone. It may happen, it may not happen. Bien.
Espero que no se les olvide dejar sus ejemplos en los comentarios. Y también espero que esté más claro ahora con
Okay, so we're going to leave this for now. I am going to show you something really quickly, though. Because actually, to be honest with you, that present perfect is not that hard to form. So I'm going to just show you how it's built quickly. Vale la pena. It's worth. Oh, you haven't heard this since 4th or 5th grade because we don't bother after 4th or 5th grade. You do it. You know you do it. Everybody says this, and you know what it means. Okay. But then when you got to do it in a different language, it's like, no, I'm messed up. Okay. This is not that hard. Here's what this is. Present perfect. Because you may hear people using this. Actually, this is present perfect. It is a tense. It is, in fact, a tense. And even though it's got the word present in it, it really is saying that something is done. It happened. It already happened. Okay. But it's using a specific structure. And what it is using the present of have. Whoop. Plus a past participle. Okay. So in English, this will be I got to pick something that's regular. Okay. I have spoken. I've spoken. You have spoken. Okay. Or let's make it a little more concrete. Let's say traveled. I have traveled. You have traveled. Yeah. Okay. And have traveled is what we call present perfect because we're using have and a past participle, which often means ed, but may take some weird things, some weird irregular structures in English as well. Or let's see the other version. She or he has traveled. So in English, it's going to be have or has. There's the present part, the have part. And we pair it up with an activity. And when we pair those two up, it means something happened. Could mean kind of recently, could mean, at some point I have done it. So have traveled. that means we're going to have to take a special verb for have. Oh, clase, ¿cómo se dice have en español? How do you say have?
Tener.
Tener. Okay, you would think, yay, I got this. Have, tener. No, sadly, no, because tener means to have in the sense of it's mine. I own this. Yeah. Okay. Tener means I have it. It's in my possession. That's tener. This has to be a have verb that is going to act as a helping verb, an auxiliary verb. And in Spanish, that verb is going to be this verb, haber, haber. Haber is oddly the thing that I comes from. I is, there are, right? Hay unos discos aquí. There are some discs here, some, CDs. Hay unos libros aquí. Hay. This is the same verb that I comes from, but I is an impersonal form, meaning we're not referring to any human being. Now, haber, instead of becoming I that you have used since like day 1, day 2, week 1, week 2 of Spanish class, this is a different haber. The past participle is going to be formed by an ado for AR verbs or an ido for ER and IR verbs. And haber will take these forms. Nosotros hemos. Tú, perdón, I got to get my Spanish keyboard back. Tú has. This is only if you were in Spain, but you won't need it, just so you know it is there. Habéis. Él or ella. And it'll sound like it'll sound like the that means two. It will sound like that, but it's spelled with an H. Ellos han. Okay, so for viajar is an AR verb. So if you want to say traveled, the past participle form, it comes viajado. And the reason this is actually a nice structure to know, this thing we call present perfect, is that it indicates past. The action is done, over with. Okay. And instead of using one verb, traveled, I'm using two verbs that are working together to say have traveled. So, he viajado, I have traveled. Has viajado, you have traveled. Oh, and look, viajado is always viajado. What gets conjugated is this verb up here, haber. This ado thing is always ado, no matter who does it. Oh, so the only thing you have to know for a whole bunch of verbs is the forms of haber. To say that yo has done it. Has to say that tú has done it. To say that he or she has done it. Hemos to say we have done it. And to say they have done it. Yay. Has viajado. Luis ha viajado. Luis has traveled. Hemos viajado. We have traveled. Mis amigos han viajado. Mis amigos han viajado. So this viajado never, once you know the form is viajado, it's always viajado. Always. What gets conjugated is the have. The have. The has. The have. That's what gets. So this is a very popular structure in Spain to talk about something that happened recently, like this morning, within the last day or so. It's very popular in Spain. It is less popular, I would say, in Latin America. In Spain, they have a real nuanced thing. If they want to say something is pretty recent in the past, they'll use this. But the reason it is kind of helpful is that all you really need to conjugate is one verb, haber, into has, a, hemos, habéis, or han. And then you just have to know the past participle. So whenever you see those two, like something that starts with an H, hemos, or or as, or a, or an, mentally you can prepare for, oh, it's a perfect tense. They're talking about something that happened, it's done, but it's kind of recent. Okay. All right. I hope that helps a little, because you may encounter that from time to time. If you were, it is not as favored in Latin America, but very popular thing to say in Spain. Okay. Bien. Any other question about olvidarsele? To forget about something. See, Cindy.
You said there are a few verbs that take on this same trait. Is it always used that same way? Because I've always just used ovido.
Well,
And I never put the other part on it. So is that incorrect to use the verb just in a simple form?
just as olvidar. Is it incorrect? It's not incorrect, but culturally speaking, people don't like to admit that they really forgot. So it's actually, people don't like to take the blame. And because of that, it is a cultural thing. And also because it implies, I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to. And I think really that's more why it's popular. Olvidarsele is very, very common. What you're signaling to somebody is, oh, how could I have done that? It is really, really common with romper, to break. Because if I say el niño rompe el juguete, the kid breaks his toy, that means that little stinker got in a snit and he meant to. He had a fit. He had a fit. He had a tantrum. And he said, I'm going to break that toy. I'm going to break it on purpose. Romper is very much on purpose. I'm breaking this. So romper, like olvidar, is almost always, because most people don't say, I'm going to break this for you. It's an oops. The se, me, se, te, se, le is oops. Se me rompió. Oh my gosh, I broke it. And you're automatically saying, I didn't mean to. It's an automatic oops. That thing went and broke itself on me. See.
How many verbs are there that are like that?
How many verbs that
So many.
I would guess, I don't have an absolute count, but I would put it somewhere in the dozen range.
So not so many.
Not so many, but oddly enough, things that come up. So, and I'm looking here because I've got something that goes to that. ¿Dónde está? Aquí está, aquí está. Here it is, here it is, here it is. Okay, so let's take a look at these again. And you know, these are kind of problematic because they're actually quite common, but you have to know when you're listening for it, oh, you're going to hear something that is a past. So that part is uncomfortable. And this part is uncomfortable. The se me, the sete, the sele. But know that when you hear se me, somebody automatically is going to say something that's an oops. Right? Se me is automatically going to be an oops. Sete is automatically going to be an oops. Okay. Okay. I'm looking for, do I have I thought I had, yes, I do have a list. Sí, tengo una lista. This is a pretty good list. I'm not going to say this is 100% because I'm sure there are some things I've forgotten in here or left off. But these are things that people use a lot. Forget something, but again, they're usually going to be in the past. Run out of something, meaning you have nothing left of that item. Okay. Something occurred to somebody. Okay. Somebody dropped. They dropped. And again, that's an oops. Didn't mean to. Somebody broke something. Oh, they didn't mean to. They broke something. You lost something. Oh, this one is totally saying, not my fault, I lost it. Okay, I was a doofus maybe, and I lost something, but it went and it got itself lost on me. But obviously you didn't mean to lose it. Okay. Quedársele, to leave something behind. Okay, I left my phone at the office. When you leave something behind, it's quedársele. And descomponérsele. Wow. Poner means to put. Componer means to compose. Descomponer is to decompose, meaning something falls into all little pieces. Something breaks down. Okay. Descomponer, and the se le tells who that mechanical thing broke on. This is used to talk about your car or any kind of electrical gadget you've got that doesn't work properly anymore. Descomponérsele, but most often with a car, to say your car broke down. Okay. And this descomponerse is not like romper, break. Descomponer means it's a piece of machinery. It's some kind of equipment with many moving parts. Okay. Whereas romper can just mean to break a glass, to break a porcelain plate, you know, something that's in one piece. So that's a pretty good list of the kinds of verbs you'll typically hear used in that se, le structure. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Automatically no. 100% of the time, if you hear a se me, se te, se le, se les, se nos combo, if that leads off the se nos, the se me, it means oops. It means something happened and didn't mean for it. Didn't mean for it to happen. That's the point of that. Okay. Bien? Bien. Okay. Can we flip over to a little bit with algún?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's flip a little bit to algún. I want to fit that in and fit your se trata de. We're going to do, okay, I've altered a little bit. This is okay. We're going to see if you can just figure out which form of algún will be used. Okay, we're not going to get quite as far as I wanted to, but that's all right. We can do it next week. We can include more of this next week because I do want you to use your se trata items. Okay, here we go. We're going to do a little bit with algún. This is just, again, to polish up, to get a little better at knowing what form of algún, because there are many forms, is going to be used. And, 4 minutos, 4 minutes, so this isn't much.
Hola, en esta lección vamos a practicar un poco más algún, ningún y las demás formas. In this video, we'll be practicing algún, alguna, and alguno, which mean a or any, algunos and algunas, which mean some or any, and ningún, ninguna, or ninguno, which mean none or.
Oh, I want you to know something. We have plurals here, algunos and algunas. Do you see a plural here? Oh, no.
No.
The plurals are very rare for the none or not one category. They're rare. They do exist, but you hear them in very isolated, specific examples. Okay, and now we'll let it roll. But remember, algún is one of those shortened, we cut off the o at the end quite often. And that's why we're looking at
Not
these.
one. Now, go ahead and translate the sentences into Spanish using algún, ningún, and all those other forms. Pause the video if you need more time and check the word bank if you aren't sure about a word. Does Rodrigo know of a beautiful park?
And of any, some park. We don't really care which one as long as it's a pretty one. Any beautiful park, some kind of pretty park.
¿Conoce algún parque bonito, Rodrigo?
Algún parque. This is a shortened algún, right? Instead of alguno, because parque masculino, el parque, entonces algún parque. Oh, some park. And conoce, does he know of, meaning is he familiar with, right? When we know a place, when we're familiar with a place, we use conocer. ¿Conoce algún parque bonito? ¿Conoce algún parque bonito? Bien, okay. So we need algún because it's parque, masculine, one.
Oh. Got it.
Pregunta,
Got it.
question?
Oh, got it. Thank you.
Okay, vale.
Juan doesn't like any girls in his class.
He doesn't like any girls in his class. Okay. So this is a negative instead of the algún idea, right? It's the negative idea.
Ninguna.
A Juan no le gusta ninguna chica en su clase.
Ah, ninguna chica. No girl at all. Not any, right? Not any. And we've got an a Juan because we've got the le gusta, right? A Juan no le gusta ninguna chica. Ninguna chica, but I can't say ningún because chica is a feminine word. I need the feminine form of not any. The feminine form of not any is ninguna. I cannot cut it off, cut it short like ningún, right? Because chica is a feminine noun.
And remember, it's rare that we'll find these in the plural, so in this case, if he doesn't like even one girl in his class, then we'd have no reason to pluralize it, right?
So yes, we say he doesn't like any girls, plural. In English, not any girls, it becomes a singular thing because he doesn't even like one girl. So it's ninguna chica. That's just what they do, okay?
Some houses near the lake are big.
Ah, okay, houses. Casas?
Casas.
Some houses. Algunas casas.
Algunas casas cerca del lago son grandes.
Okay, algunas casas, some houses, algunas casas femenina, plural, we got feminine, plural, so it's algunas.
Can some cats drive? ¿Pueden conducir algunos gatos?
Yeah, some cats, algunos gatos. Okay, gatos plural because we got a plural. Algunos gatos. Okay, we can't shorten algunos.
What are some names for girls?
Oh, some names.
¿Cuáles son algunos nombres para chicas?
Ah, yeah. So we want some examples. Yeah. What are some names? ¿Cuáles son algunos nombres para chicas?
None of the boys knows how to dance.
Oh, and now, although we say boys in Spanish, it won't be even one boy. So we've got to use chico.
Chicos.
Ningun.
Ningun chico. We can't say
Ningún
ninguno
chico.
chico.
No.
It's ningun chico because we're using it in front of chico. So we've got to truncate, shorten that word ninguno to ningun.
Ninguno de los muchachos sabe.
Or we can do that. Ninguno de. We can also do that. Ninguno de los muchachos. So, okay. I can't remember if he gives the alternative here. Ninguno de, none of the boys. Okay. We could also say ningún muchacho. That is perfectly okay, by
Bailar.
the way.
Okay.
Is there an ice cream parlor downtown? No, there aren't any.
Oh, ice cream parlor would be heladería. And the is there is I.
One.
Ninguna.
So, alguno.
¿Hay alguna heladería buena en el centro?
Now, you could express that. ¿Hay alguna heladería? Is there some kind of, some kind of alguna heladería? You could also say, hay una heladería. You could substitute instead of alguna, you could say, hay una heladería. You can't substitute the word una in this example. But alguna means some kind of. Oh, is there some? So alguna is a little more specific than una, I guess you could say.
Why did he put buena
No.
in it?
When do you put?
Why did he put buena in it? Buena.
Oh,
It's
why
not
did
in-
he? Yeah, it's not in the English. I don't know why. He put that in
Oh.
there. Yeah.
Just a-
Buena just means good.
Yeah.
A good one. Is there some good one? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
No hay ninguna.
No hay ninguna, and there isn't any. Ninguna has to be feminine because it's talking about heladería, a store where they sell ice cream goodies. No hay ninguna, there's none.
We waited for you for a few hours.
Oh, a few hours, and a few will translate into this idea of algún or alguno or alguna. And hours, ¿cómo se dice hours?
Horas y horas.
Horas,
Hora.
horas, femenina. And the we waited, you may not know the past, he'll show you, but it sounds like the present actually. Esperamos.
Te esperamos por algunas horas.
Te esperamos, we waited for you. The for you is the te. Te esperamos por algunas horas. Algunas here means a few. Okay.
Luis didn't buy a single rose for his wife.
Ah, not even one rose. Rosa.
Luis no le compró ninguna rosa a su esposa.
Yeah, he didn't buy any rose at all. He didn't. And in English, you might say he didn't buy any roses. We might say he didn't buy a single rose. He didn't buy a rose. Okay, so yeah, in English, there are different ways we might express that, but he didn't get even one. Not even one is the ninguna. Not even. Ninguna.
Do you have any problems with me? No, I don't have any.
Oh.
¿Tienes
algunos problemas conmigo?
Yeah, and problemas is kind of a fuller word. We actually, it's a good word. Problemas looks like it's feminine, but it isn't. It's
It
el
isn't.
problema, right? So this is a masculine word. Tienes algunos problemas conmigo. And notice it's going to flip into not plural, but a singular in the answer.
No, no tengo ninguno.
I have none. Now, why can it stand as ninguno there? No tengo ninguno. Why is it the full form without the chopping off the o at the end?
The noun's not there with it?
The noun isn't there
Okay.
with it. If the noun isn't standing there, if the noun isn't standing right next to that none word, if we don't have those in combo, then the full form of ninguno comes back in. No tengo ninguno. This is a good
And
thing
remember
for
that
you to
problema is
know.
actually masculine. Did you see any of your friends at the party? ¿Viste a alguno de tus amigos en la fiesta?
And alguno
Wow.
de, we'll have a video next week, Monday, on this alguno de. We'll kind of elaborate on that, how that happens next week. Not today, but.
Does the car belong to any of you? ¿El coche es de alguno de ustedes?
And we'll talk about this.
And of course, if
alguno
you are
de.
learning Spanish from Spain,
We'll talk about that next week, alguno de. So don't worry
you
about
also
that
might want to use
now.
the vosotros form here. So you would just ask, ¿el coche es de alguno de vosotros? There is not a single job in that town.
Ooh,
Ninguno.
No hay ningún trabajo en ese pueblo.
ningún trabajo. Okay, you might use the word trabajo. You might use the word empleo, employment. Yeah, they're equivalents. No hay ningún.
Uh-oh.
It did a blip on us. Sorry about that. Okay, we're almost done with this video and we're going to move on to our se trata very, very quickly. So we're just going to let the last, I think it's the last minute of this roll out. So you see, and again, this is just so that you see some of these examples of using them. And we're going to get a little more into the nitty gritty of the day and why that happened next week. So.
Muy bien. That's all for this video lesson. Over.
And that is the end. Okay, that's the last lesson. So we're done with that. Okay, vale. So that's just to, again, kind of review what those forms are of algún or ningun, and how they have a feminine form and how sometimes they'll have a plural form, just to review the forms themselves. We'll talk a little more about the de and why we have the de in there, okay? But I want to reserve some talking time for you guys now to use se trata de. Se trata de. Okay. Muy fácil. Very, very easy. In English, we need a bunch of different words for this. We se trata de is the equivalent for it's about. And yeah, it is about. And you don't need to change the se trata de. It's always going to be se trata de. You're talking about a thing, an article out of a newspaper, an article out of a magazine, a book, a video, a YouTube, you know, something, okay, a DVD, a live streaming, something, but se trata de, it's about. And it does have to be se trata de, it's about. The se is an important thing, okay? We're going to get your examples in a minute. Mis ejemplos. Okay. Ooh, Thomas Crown Affair. We're not going to translate the titles. Keep the title the way it is.
Oh, okay.
The Thomas Crown Affair. Ooh, se trata de un hombre rico que le roba el arte. Le roba el arte de museos. He steals art from museums. Un hombre rico que le roba arte. Sí, obras de arte de museos. Okay. Oh, por ejemplo, The Right Stuff. Se trata de el principio del programa NASA. ¿Sí? Se trata de los primeros astronautas. Se trata de los primeros astronautas. It should be that simple, okay? La serie Lost. Se trata de las personas que sobreviven, después de que chocara su avión. After the plane crash, ¿sí? Las personas que sobreviven en una isla aislada. They survive on an isolated island. Sobreviven en una isla aislada. Oh, por ejemplo, de un libro. Este libro es de Don Quijote. Don Quijote es un libro muy famoso en español. Es la primera novela. Don Quijote se trata de un hombre que se cree un caballero medieval. Se cree, he thinks himself to be. Se cree un caballero medieval. He thinks he's a medieval knight. Okay? Sus ejemplos, your examples. Se trata de. You won't change se trata de, but you're going to have to give information. Alguien, somebody. Got a good
Sorry.
example? Okay, Cindy.
Okay.
Sí. Se trata de geología del mundo en Utah.
Ah, bien. La geología. Geology. Se trata de la geología. Bien. Ok. Fabuloso. No es novela. No es novela. Not a novel. Es un libro de la ciencia. ¿Sí? Ok. Bueno, fantástico. ¿Alguien más? Somebody else. Ok, Carrie. Perdón.
Go ahead, Mark.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mark.
El Museo Hurt se trata del arte de indios americanos.
Ok. Bien, 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 bien. Ok. Carrie.
Ok. Este libro se trata de la historia de mi pueblo natal.
Oh,
Cannot see it.
and we cannot see. We
That's
cannot
it.
see.
Cannot see your
Oh,
book.
it does not show up.
Oh,
Maybe you can read the title. El título. ¿Cuál es el título?
Oostburg, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Bien. Okay. Su pueblo natal. Her hometown. Okay. Excelente. Algo más. Something else. Jan. Oh, Jan, you're on mute.
Yo estoy leyendo el libro Left on 10. Se trata de una segunda oportunidad en el amor y la autora es Delia Ephron.
Ah, bien. Okay. Segunda oportunidad, second chance. Eso es. Muy bien. Bueno, Jenny, ¿tienes algo?
So, es el libro. Se trata de cómo entrenar
Muy bien.
a mascotas,
Ah.
niños y personas con refuerzo positivo.
Y cómo entrenarse a personas también.
Sí.
¡Wow! ¡Qué interesante! Me gusta. ¡Wow!
Necesito este libro.
Ay, sí. Yo también necesito ese
todos,
libro.
mira.
Es un libro muy útil. Es un libro muy útil con las mascotas y igualmente con las personas. Bien. Me gusta, me gusta. Ok. Bueno, más ejemplos. Ok, Jeff. Condorito.
Sí, este cómic, Condorito. Se trata de una personaje que parece un cóndor. Condorita y sus amigos se meten en todos tipos de situaciones divertidas.
Ah, sí. Se meten, they get themselves into situations. Meterse, meter means to put something inside of something else. So, meterse en el bolsillo, you know, your pocket. Okay, you use meterse, or maybe in a drawer, en un cajón, se mete, one puts. But meterse en problemas, meterse en un lío, to get yourself in a trouble. Bien, excelente, me gusta, Jeff.
Es muy popular en Sudamérica con chicos tienen 10 y 12 años. Perfect for me.
Así es, sí. Bien, ok. Es buena idea, sí. Las revistas, los libros cómicos, sí, que son para niños, son buenos para aprender. Realmente sí son excelentes para aprender cosas. Ok. Muy bien. ¿Qué más? Who else has something?
I'll try one.
Go ahead, Pat.
Okay. See if you can see this.
What's
Un
that?
poquito más alto.
Okay.
Arriba. Perfecto, perfecto.
The Tao of Miao se trata de un gato quien enseña a su familia como la filosofía de vida.
Excelente. Muy bien. Ok. Bueno, Joanita.
Just this one.
Oh. Yeah, right. I love it.
Es una comedia película. Se trata de 3 hombres que hicieron muchas cosas de manera tonta.
Sí. Sí, excelente. Me gusta, sí. Ok. Bueno. Sí. Tonto, foolish. Really. Tonto, silly. Yeah. I had a very hard time adjusting when I moved here and I saw a whole community.
Tonto Park.
Tonto verde, green fool. What the heck? I think that tonto, or, you know, Tonto National Forest, I would laugh. I would just
Right.
break up.
funny.
I'm not sure if that actually comes, there is maybe also an indigenous word here somewhere with that is tonto that is not related to Spanish. No sé, don't know. Okay. ¿Qué más? Who else has an example?
I'll try one.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
Okay. It's Mary Poppins. It's se trata de niñera mágica quien lleva a los niños a unas aventuras fantásticas.
Sí, una niñera. She's a governess, yeah, niñera. Somebody takes care of kids. Excelente. Bueno, Nora.
Let's see. Se trata de un ratón y sus amigos están viviendo en el bosque. They live in the forest.
Bosque.
Bosque.
Sí, que están viviendo en un bosque. Bien, sí, me gusta. Un libro de niños, sí. Bueno, algo más, something more.
I've got one.
Okay, Mary, dinos algo. Tell us something.
SOS favorite recipes of Tuscany. Se trata de la cocina tradicional italiano que cubre la herencia culinaria y los platos tradicionales, con la carne, la pasta, las verduras, el pan y los postres.
Sí, se trata de recetas Recetas tradicionales de Italia y de Tuscany, una región muy específica en Italia, ¿no? Tuscany es una región de Italia muy, muy linda, muy hermosa.
Bonita, yeah.
Okay,
Sí.
yours sounds a lot better.
No, hiciste bien. You did well. Hiciste bien, sí. Y tenías ejemplos, and you had examples of all the different places. Sí, que es excelente. Muy bien. Bueno, algo más. Anything else? Se trata de. Se trata de. Okay, so se trata de is always a good thing if you want to tell somebody about something you just read, something you just saw, whether it's on TV or streaming or a movie, or something you saw in the theater, or something you just read in, I don't know, the New Yorker magazine, whatever magazine you might get, right? Se trata de, and it's always se trata de. So you don't have to think about, do I conjugate something different? Se trata de. I do want to distinguish a little bit, and I'll give you a little video on this as part of your homework. Sí, nos quedan 4 minutos. We got 4 minutes. So, okay, we're going to finish this up pretty well from where I thought we were. We are going to take a look at, I will send you a video to watch, which will talk about this verb tratar, tratar, because se trata de is a nice chunk of words that will always mean is about. And we use it to talk about books. Ooh, books. Books. We use it to talk about books. We use it to talk about movies. Okay, principally those two things. And it's always se trata de. So you never have to think too hard about how do I conjugate this? Se trata de. All right. But we don't really need that word about. Well, the de is kind of about, kind of, right? But we use this verb tratar in different ways. So you'll notice that that one is reflexive, right? So technically, tratarse de, right? But you might just use tratar. Oh, tratar with no se tagged on to the back end can just mean to treat somebody a certain way. Okay, por ejemplo, Beatriz. Trata a su perrito como si fuera un bebé. And even though you don't really know that fuera word so well, we'll preface this. The como si fuera as if it were. Okay. Beatriz trata a su perrito como si fuera un bebé. Beatriz does what?
Treats her dog.
Treats her dog like a baby.
Treats her
like
little
own
dog as if it were a baby. She treats her little dog. So trata without the se tagged on to the end, trata can means treats. Or, por ejemplo, en este ejemplo, okay. Leonor lo trata muy mal. You need some context. Let's give you some context. Leonor es mala novia. She's a bad girlfriend. Leonor es mala novia, ¿no? No tiene respeto a su novio, aunque es buen hombre. Leonor is a bad girlfriend. She doesn't respect her boyfriend, although he is a good man. Leonor lo trata muy mal. Leonor does what?
Treats him badly.
She treats him badly, right? And Leonor lo trata muy mal doesn't give you a whole lot of context. So you've got to know that the lo here is talking about a su novio, see, right? Okay, so you need some context to understand this. So tratar can mean to treat, but we also have something that is called tratar de, but notice not se trata de. Tratar de e infinitivo. Tratar de infinitivo. So if I tag on a second infinitive, a not conjugated verb, this is going to mean to try to. So there's no say. So this shows you a little bit of how verbs morph when they use say or when they don't use say. So tratar has a few meanings. So trato de limpiar este baño, pero es imposible. Trato de limpiar este baño, pero es imposible. I'm trying to clean this bathroom, but it's just
Possible.
yeah, it's right, hard, difficult, a mess. Okay. O por ejemplo, los niños tratan de escribir sus frases en inglés. The kids are trying to write their sentences in English. So tratar de plus an infinitive, infinitivo, means to try to. So I'm going to give you a little video to watch for this coming week for our last thing that will talk about this different ways to say try. What are all the different ways we can say try in English? We can say, oh, I'd like to try those shoes. I'd like to try on those shoes. That's going to be that's going to be different. Yeah. So this is a video that's going to talk about all the different ways when in English you might say try, but how that may morph into different structures. Okay. So I want you to think about that, and I'll give you a little assignment in the follow-up email. It'll be based on that. So I'm going to want you to actually watch that video and then try to use some examples. Bien, okay. Eso es. So that's going to be your little assignment there, to use the different structures where in English we just use try, but there are going to be some different verbs in Spanish. Bien?
Bien.
Bien, okay. So it won't just be se trata de. It won't be that. And then we're also going to go back and look again a little at why do we need algún or algunos, and how is that different from unos, and why might I use alguno de? Why do I have that de in there? What the heck is up about that? So we're going to see some examples of that. Okay, bien. Creo que eso es todo. I think that's it. If I find an interesting little storyline, I might send that for just general listening that, you know, with no particular lesson embedded in it. Bien?
Bien.
Excelente. Okay. Entonces, nos vemos la semana que viene. We'll be seeing you that'll be the last week of August, la última semana de agosto. Muy bien. Okay. Entonces, hasta luego.